The cameras were rolling. The audience was locked in. And then it happened. Mark Levin, one of the most aggressive and outspoken conservative voices in modern political media, decided to go after not just Jasmine Crockett's arguments, but her very credibility as a lawyer. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't nuanced. Levin went for the jugular, calling into question her law degree, her background, and by extension, her right to stand toe-to-toe with him in the public square. For many watching, this was nothing new. Mark Levin has built his brand on sharp rhetoric, cutting attacks and framing debates in ways that aim to discredit opponents before they even get their full point across. But what no one expected was the way Crockett would respond. Because Crockett didn't back down. She didn't dodge, and she didn't let the attack hang in the air unanswered. Instead, she delivered a reply so sharp, so rooted in fact, and so devastatingly calm, that it stunned not only Levin himself, but everyone who witnessed the exchange. So why does this moment matter? After all, heated exchanges in politics are nothing new. Politicians spar pundits, attack, and headlines come and go. But this wasn't just about a verbal skirmish. This was about something deeper, the question of credibility. When someone attacks a person's credentials, they're not just arguing against a point. They're trying to undercut the foundation of that person's authority. They're sending the message: you don't belong here. You're not qualified. Your voice shouldn't count. And for millions of Americans, especially women, people of color, and first-generation professionals, this tactic is all too familiar. It's the kind of move designed not to win on facts, but to win by intimidation. That's what makes Jasmine Crockett's response so important. She didn't just defend herself, she turned the tables. She transformed an attack into an opportunity to showcase exactly why she belonged. Why her law degree wasn't just a credential on paper, but a weapon in practice. In a world where misinformation spreads faster than truth attacks, like Levin's don't happen in a vacuum. They become sound bites, shared clips, and viral talking points. Think about it. How many times have you seen a politician or media figure launch a baseless attack only for that attack to take on a life of its own online? Suddenly, people are debating whether there's any truth to it, even if the claim was hollow from the start. That's the danger here. And that's why Crockett's reply resonated so strongly. She didn't just defend herself. She made sure the truth was louder than the fiction. Over the course of this breakdown, we're going to unpack exactly what happened. The build-up. What led Mark Levin to launch this attack, and why credibility has become a weapon in modern politics. The confrontation. A step-by-step play-by-play of Crockett's stunning reply, and how she managed to turn the moment around. The aftermath. How the public, the media, and even Levin's own supporters reacted in the hours and days that followed. The larger lesson. Why this wasn't just about one exchange, but about the power of preparation, facts, and courage in the face of intimidation. By the time we're done, you'll not only understand why this particular moment went viral, you'll see why it matters for anyone who's ever been underestimated, discredited, or told they don't belong. And that brings us to the quote that perfectly captures the heart of this story. In a world full of confident fiction, it only takes one person with facts to change everything. That's what Jasmine Crockett reminded us in this moment. Confidence without truth crumbles. Intimidation without facts fails. And sometimes it only takes one well-placed reply to shift the balance of power. So buckle up. Because this isn't just a story about politics. It's a masterclass in how to shut down baseless attacks with preparation, composure, and undeniable truth. The stage was already set before the first word was spoken. Mark Levin, a longtime conservative commentator, lawyer, and radio host, is no stranger to confrontation. His brand is built on sharp elbows, cutting language, and a relentless ability to hammer an opponent until the sheer weight of his delivery seems to eclipse whatever substance is or isn't there. For his audience, this is entertainment as much as it is political commentary. For his opponents, it's often an ambush. On the other side stood Jasmine Crockett, a freshman congresswoman, a practicing attorney, and someone who has built her career not by shrinking from confrontation, but by walking straight into it. For Crockett, hearings and debates aren't just political theater. They're arenas where preparation and precision matter. She knows the rules, she knows the law, and she knows how to use both. But before their paths collided in this particular exchange, there was an undercurrent building. And it's that undercurrent, the tension simmering just below the surface, that makes this story worth telling. By the time this exchange took place, Levin had been ramping up his rhetoric for weeks. His radio and TV appearances were peppered with attacks on what he often paints as the radical left, zeroing in on figures like Alexandria, Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and now Jasmine Crockett. Crockett represented something uniquely threatening to Levin's narrative. She wasn't just another progressive voice. She was a lawyer with a background that made it hard to dismiss her as inexperienced or unqualified. Her ability to mix legal precision with plain-spoken conviction gave her a unique power. She could meet arguments both in the weeds of the law and in the court of public opinion. Levin thrives in settings where he controls the microphone. He interrupts, he reframes, he overwhelms. But Crockett's skill set meant she wasn't entering the discussion as prey. She was entering it as an opponent who had the tools to flip the script. And that in many ways is what fueled the tension. If you follow Mark Levin's career, you'll notice a pattern. When he feels threatened by the strength of an argument, he pivots away from the argument itself and attacks credibility. He questions education. He questions experience. He questions legitimacy. It's a tactic, as old as debate itself. If you can't beat the idea, attack the person. Against academics, he mocks ivory tower elites. Against young activists, he frames them as naive or uninformed. And against women in politics, especially women of color, he often resorts to dismissiveness, framing them as unqualified or over their heads. That's why, in hindsight, his decision to go after Jasmine Crockett's law degree wasn't surprising. It fit neatly into his playbook. The goal wasn't to debate the merits of her argument. It was to make people doubt her authority to speak in the first place. But here's the mistake Levin made. Crockett was more than ready for that move. Why does attacking someone's credentials matter so much? Because in the world of politics and media, credibility is currency. A law degree in Crockett's case wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a symbol of years of preparation, study, and work. It meant she could dissect legislation, analyze precedents, and argue cases in court. It gave her not just authority, but the ability to back up her positions with the weight of legal reasoning. By targeting her degree, Levin wasn't simply trying to humiliate her. He was trying to disarm her, to make the audience believe that her authority wasn't earned, that her background wasn't real, and therefore that her arguments weren't worth considering. This was the real battleground, not policy, not ideology, but credibility itself. Heading into this confrontation, there were expectations on both sides. Levin's audience expected him to dominate. They tuned in to see him dismantle another progressive, to hear the kind of fiery rhetoric that has made him a staple in conservative media. For them, the outcome was predetermined. Levin would overwhelm Crockett, would retreat, and the segment would become another notch in his belt. But Crockett's supporters knew something different. They had watched her in hearings, seen her press witnesses with razor-sharp questions, and watched her refuse to be silenced when others tried to talk over her. They knew she wasn't the type to fold under pressure. The clash wasn't just two individuals, it was two expectations colliding, and everyone watching had a sense that sparks were coming. This moment didn't happen in isolation. It unfolded in a political climate where disinformation thrives, where personal attacks are often weaponized more effectively than facts, and where public trust in institutions including education and law has been steadily eroded. Levin's attack tapped into a broader narrative. The idea that expertise is suspect, that institutions are corrupt, and that credentials don't matter if they come from the wrong side. For Crockett, the challenge was bigger than defending herself. She had to show in real time why preparation and truth still matter, and why credentials aren't just symbols, but proof of real skill and real work. As the conversation unfolded, You could feel the energy shift. Levin circled. He interrupted. He raised his voice. Each move was designed to push Crockett off balance to create the impression that she wasn't in control. But Crockett didn't flinch. Each time she steadied herself, she listened. She let him speak. And then calmly and deliberately she responded with precision. That composure was its own form of suspense. You could almost sense that she was waiting for him to cross the line to make the attack so personal, so glaring, that it would give her the opening to deliver the kind of reply that no one could forget. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. By the time Levin finally launched the attack questioning Crockett's law degree, the tension had reached its peak. The air was thick with expectation. Would she stumble? Would she dodge? Or would she rise to the moment? And that's where the story pivots. Because what came next wasn't just a reply. It was a takedown. So precise, so unshakable, that it didn't just silence the room. It stunned everyone watching. The moment everyone had been waiting for didn't come with a bang. It came with a smirk. Mark Levin leaned forward, voice dripping with the kind of confidence that has carried him through decades of debates. His tone was sharp, dismissive, and intentionally personal. He didn't just want to challenge Jasmine Crockett's point. He wanted to undercut the very foundation of her credibility. "So, let me ask you this," Levin said, raising an eyebrow for effect. "Exactly where did you get that law degree? Because frankly, listening to you talk, I'm not sure you understand the law at all." The words hung in the air like smoke. It wasn't just an attack. It was an insult, designed to stick. Levin's move was textbook. He didn't dispute Crockett's legal reasoning, didn't provide a counter-argument, and didn't even bother with nuance. Instead, he attacked the source of her authority, her law degree. It was a strategy meant to accomplish three things at once: shake her confidence. If Crockett got flustered, the audience might see her stumble and Levin would claim victory. Undermine her credibility. By questioning the legitimacy of her education, he could plant doubt in viewers' minds, even if the accusation had no basis. Control the narrative. Instead of debating the actual issue, the focus would shift to Crockett herself. This was Levin at his sharpest, confident, confrontational, and ready for Crockett to crack. But what happened next wasn't in his script. Crockett didn't fire back immediately. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even shift in her chair. Instead, she paused. It was a long pause. The algae kind that makes an audience lean in wondering if the person under fire is scrambling for a response or plotting their next move. Levin leaned back slightly, almost smirking as though he believed the silence was proof of victory. But Crockett wasn't scrambling. She was setting the stage. Finally, Crockett leaned in, her voice steady and unshaken. "You want to know where I got my law degree?" she asked. Her tone was calm, but her words cut through the air with precision. "I earned my law degree from the Thurgood Marshall School of Law. I passed the bar. I've argued cases in courtrooms. I've defended people's rights under the Constitution you claim to respect. So let me make this clear. My degree isn't just a piece of paper. It's proof of years of work, years of preparation, and years of standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves." The shift in the room was palpable. Levin's smirk faded, his eyes narrowing as though he hadn't expected such a direct, unshakable reply. But Crockett wasn't finished. She continued, her words sharp but measured. "And let me ask you this, Mr. Levin, when you dismiss my education, are you questioning the institution? Are you questioning the work of every law student who fought their way through those years? Or is it just easier for you to attack me personally than to engage with the facts I've presented?" The rhetorical reversal was devastating. Levin had tried to put her on the defensive, but she flipped the frame entirely, making him answer for the baselessness of his attack. It was no longer about her law degree. It was about Levin's credibility. For a moment, Levin didn't have a comeback. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The room once filled with tension was now dead silent. In that silence, Crockett pressed the advantage. See, here's the thing. I don't need to shout to make my point. I don't need to insult you personally. I just need to lay out the truth. And the truth is, you attacked my degree because you couldn't attack my argument. That's not debate. That's deflection. And the people watching deserve better. The words landed like a gavel strike, firm, final, and impossible to ignore. The audience erupted not in noise but in stunned stillness. For viewers at home, social media feeds lit up within seconds. Clips of the moment began circulating almost immediately with captions like, "Jasmine Crockett just schooled Mark Levin with the calmest takedown ever." Levin thought he had her. Crockett ended his whole argument in 30 seconds. This is how you shut down baseless attacks. Even in the room you could see the shift. Levin, usually the one controlling the tempo, looked rattled. His attempt to discredit had not only failed, it had backfired. What made Crockett's reply so powerful wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. She didn't match Levin's volume. She didn't let his aggression dictate her tone. Instead, she used preparation, patience, and precision to dismantle his attack, piece by piece. It was the kind of moment that reminded people why facts matter, why composure matters, why preparation beats bluster every single time. And more than that, it was a moment that showed how dangerous it can be to underestimate someone who is ready. The shock wasn't just about Crockett's words. It was about the dynamic. For years, Levin has used his platform to dominate opponents. He thrives on turning debates into spectacles. But here the spectacle turned against him. His attack didn't land. His control slipped. And the audience, both in the room and online, saw something rare. Mark Levin silenced. That's why the clip spread so quickly. That's why people are still talking about it. And that's why this moment will likely follow Levin for years to come. Not as one of his victories, but as one of his most memorable defeats. By the time Crockett finished, the confrontation was effectively over. Levin tried to pivot, but the damage was done. Her rep, Lee, had gone viral before the segment even ended. The confrontation between Mark Levin and Jasmine Crockett didn't just end when the cameras stopped rolling, it sparked a firestorm that spread far beyond the studio. Within minutes of Crockett's takedown, it was already clear this moment wasn't going to stay contained. News outlets thrive on moments like this. Unscripted, raw, and easy to clip. Crockett's reply had all the elements: a bold attack, a poised comeback, and a stunned silence from Levin. Before the broadcast had even finished airing, digital teams at major networks clipped the exchange and posted it to their feeds. CNN labeled it, "Rep Jasmine Crockett fires back at Mark Levin. My degree is proof of preparation." MSNBC highlighted it as a story of composure, how Jasmine Crockett silenced Mark Levin without raising her voice. Even Fox News, Levin's own orbit, couldn't avoid covering it, though their framing leaned defensive. Levin challenges Crockett's law background in heated exchange. Every outlet spun the story in its own way, but one truth was undeniable. The confrontation had become the headline. If the mainstream press was quick, social media was faster. The clip spread like wildfire across Twitter, X, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and Facebook. Within an hour, hashtags like Crockett vs. Levin and Law Degree, SmackDown were trending. Users replayed the moment Levin went silent, cutting it into GIFs and reaction memes. One viral tweet read, "Levin tried to question her law degree. Crockett questioned his whole strategy." Game over on TikTok. Younger audiences remixed the moment with dramatic sound effects and captions like, "POV, you thought attacking her education would work." By the end of the night, the clip had racked up millions of views. For Crockett's supporters, the confrontation was a rallying cry. Activists and allies praised not just what she said, but how she said it: calm, confident, and factual. Her composure became a symbol of a bigger point. Women, especially women of color in politics, are often subjected to personal attacks meant to undermine their credentials. Crockett's response wasn't just about herself. It was about pushing back on that entire pattern. On Instagram, she posted a simple message with the clip, Preparation beats bluster. Every time the comments section flooded with support. This is why we need leaders like you. Facts. Don't panic. People do. Lawyered up and leveled up. Meanwhile, Levin's team found themselves on defense. What was meant to be a sharp cutting remark had spiraled into a public relations headache. Conservative commentators sympathetic to Levin tried to spin the moment. Some claimed Crockett had been overly rehearsed. Others insisted Levin's question had been taken out of context. But no matter how they framed it, the clip spoke louder than their defenses. Viewers saw exactly what happened. Levin attacked Crockett, replied, and Levin froze. The narrative was out of their control. The fallout wasn't just about media buzz. It had political consequences. For Crockett, the moment elevated her profile. Her name trended nationally, and she was invited onto multiple shows to discuss not only the confrontation, but also the legal issues at stake. She suddenly became a central voice in conversations where she had once been peripheral. For Levin, the hit was subtler, but significant. His reputation as a sharp debater took a dent. Among his loyal base, he remained a respected figure. But beyond that bubble, his credibility as a challenger looked weakened. Clips of his stunned silence were replayed far more than his actual words. In politics and media, perception often matters as much as substance, and perception was clear. Crockett won this round. Political analysts were quick to frame the confrontation as more than a soundbite. Media critics pointed out the dangers of attack-based strategies in debates, noting that Levin's choice to go personal cook fired because it lacked substance. Legal analysts highlighted Crockett's strategy of grounding her response in verifiable fact, her education, her bar exam, her courtroom experience, while simultaneously reframing the attack as a reflection of Levin's weakness. Political strategists argued the moment showcased the growing power of viral clips in shaping public perception. One strategist noted, "One exchange like this can do more to build or damage a reputation than months of campaigning." The confrontation resonated beyond strictly political circles. Ordinary viewers, many of whom weren't regular watchers of Levin or Crockett, connected with the dynamic. For anyone who had ever been underestimated, dismissed, or attacked unfairly, Crockett's reply felt deeply relatable. On Reddit, one commenter wrote, "I'm not even into politics, but this was satisfying to watch. She handled herself like a pro, while he melted down." On YouTube, reaction channels broke down the clip frame by frame, analyzing Crockett's body language, her calm pacing, and the exact second Levin realized he was losing control. The immediate aftermath wasn't just about who won the exchange. It was about what the moment represented. Facts versus fiction. Crockett proved that facts calmly delivered can dismantle even the most aggressive attacks. Tone matters. Her composure highlighted the weakness in Levin's bluster-driven approach. Viral power. The speed with which the moment spread showed how modern politics is shaped, not just by speeches, but by seconds-long clips. By the end of the day, the story had taken on a life of its own. What began as a heated moment between two individuals had become a broader conversation about the value of education, about the dangers of dismissing women and minorities in positions of power, about how truth preparation and composure can still cut through the noise of misinformation and performance. It was no longer just a clash. Between Mark Levin and Jasmine Crockett. It had become a cultural moment, one that raised bigger questions about how we debate, how we respect credentials, and how we decide whose voices matter. The dust may have settled, but the deeper meaning of the confrontation is only beginning to emerge. At its core, this was never just about a law degree. It was about something far more profound. Whether truth preparation and genuine expertise still matter in a political culture increasingly dominated by soundbites and spectacle. Levin's attack on Crockett's credentials was meant to cast doubt, to plant a seed of skepticism. It's a tactic as old as politics itself. If you can't refute the facts, attack the person. But Crockett's reply did something extraordinary. It shifted the terrain back to solid ground. She didn't meet bluster with bluster. She didn't get defensive or flustered. Instead, she calmly anchored herself in reality. The years of study, the exams passed. The clients defended the tangible work that cannot be erased by one dismissive remark. That moment reminded everyone watching of a simple truth. Facts don't panic. People do. When rhetoric collides with reality, it's the facts, steady, immovable, that ultimately hold the line. Levin came into the exchange with confidence. His entire persona is built on it. The booming voice, the sharp delivery, the air of certainty. And for years that strategy has worked. But Crockett's preparation made his confidence look hollow. She didn't just have a law degree. She had stories of courtroom victories, evidence of bar exams passed, and a professional record that spoke louder than any accusation. It was a textbook example of why preparation is the great equalizer. Confidence can dazzle for a moment, but preparation endures. It's the difference between a house of cards and a foundation built on stone. For anyone watching, whether a student, a professional, or someone preparing for your own moment of truth. This was a lesson: do the work, know your facts, and no amount of theatrics can shake you. There's another reason this moment mattered: representation. Crockett's response wasn't just about defending herself. It was about challenging a long-standing pattern where women, particularly women of color, are told directly or indirectly that their credentials don't count. Her takedown wasn't just personal, it was generational. It spoke to everyone who's ever had their expertise dismissed, their achievements minimized, or their qualifications questioned simply because of who they are. By standing firm, Crockett showed that these attacks don't have to go unanswered. And in doing so, she offered a roadmap for resilience to millions watching. This wasn't just a political skirmish, it was a mirror for everyday life. How many people have been in a meeting where someone tried to dismiss their contribution with a smirk or a snide remark? How many students have been told they don't belong in a program despite the work they've put in? How many professionals have had to fight twice as hard just to be recognized for what they already earned? Crockett's moment of composure wasn't limited to Congress or TV. It resonated in boardrooms, classrooms, and living rooms. It proved that the skills we build and the facts we hold on to can silence even the loudest doubters. If there's one message to take away, it's this: we can't afford to let noise drown out truth. Every time we reward bluster over evidence, every time we treat loudness as a substitute for legitimacy, we chip away at the foundation of democratic dialogue. And that's why Crockett's response matters. It wasn't just a personal win. It was a reminder that truth still has power, but only if someone is willing to defend it. And that brings us back to the heart of this entire story. Captured in one line: democracy isn't a spectator sport. It survives only when ordinary people defend the truth. That's the climax. That's the lesson. And that's why this exchange will be remembered long after the trending hashtags fade. By now you've seen how Jasmine Crockett's stunning replies shifted the entire exchange, dismantled Mark Levin's attack, and left viewers with a lesson in preparation and truth. But here's the real question: what does this moment mean for you? Because this isn't just a story about politics, it's a mirror. And if we hold it up long enough, we'll see our own experiences reflected in it. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to minimize your hard work? Maybe a boss dismissed your idea in a meeting. Maybe a classmate downplayed your effort on a project. Maybe a peer mocked your background or credentials. Just like Levin tried with Crockett. How did you respond? Did you freeze up? Did you fight back? Or did you find yourself replaying the moment later, wishing you'd had the perfect words? That's why Crockett's reply landed so hard. Not just because it silenced Levin, but because it showed millions of people what prepared resilience looks like in real time. It would be easy to leave this moment in the political world, but the truth is, it extends much further at work. Maybe you've had your expertise questioned by someone louder, not smarter. At school. Maybe you've been told you don't belong in a class or program, even when you've earned your place. In conversations. Maybe you've been drowned out by someone more confident, even when you had the facts. That's why so many people shared Crockett's clip. It wasn't just about politics. It was about life. It was about being ready when someone tries to reduce you to a stereotype, an insult, or a false narrative. Let's pause and turn this moment into something interactive. What's one time you had to stand your ground when someone tried to dismiss you? If it happened today, how would you handle it differently? Do you think you'd be prepared like Crockett to lean on facts and composure instead of panic? Drop your swears in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Because the truth is, every person watching this has had a version of that moment. Sharing yours could inspire someone else to be ready for theirs. There's also a bigger point here. We're living in an age where misinformation spreads faster than facts, and often the loudest voice in the room isn't the most informed. It's just the most confident. So here's the challenge. Are we willing to question what we hear instead of accepting it at face value? Are we willing to pause before sharing something online to make sure it's accurate? Are we willing to value truth over performance even when the performance is more entertaining? Because that's what Crockett did in that moment. She cut through performance with preparation. This isn't just about watching a viral clip. It's about building a habit. Here's what you can do. Prepare in your own life. Whether it's for a class, a job interview, or a debate. Take the time to know your facts. Confidence fades, but preparation endures. Challenge: dismissiveness. If someone tries to downplay your achievements or credentials, don't let the moment pass. Call it out calmly, firmly, and with proof. Be the fact checker. In conversations with friends or online, don't let misinformation slide. Truth needs defenders, not spectators. Support those who stand up. Crockett's moment went viral because people rallied around her. Do the same for those in your life who push back against unfairness. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced someone questioning your credibility, the way Levin did to Crockett? How did you handle it? Do you believe moments like this can shift the way people think about truth in politics? Or do you think they're just viral entertainment? And most importantly, what will you do the next time someone tries to drown out facts with noise? Your thoughts matter. Drop them in the comments. Share this with someone who needs encouragement. And let's turn this single viral moment into a larger movement toward truth. At the end of the day, this wasn't just about Levin or Crockett. It was about the lesson every viewee can take. Preparation is power. Truth has weight, and composure is a weapon louder than shouting. Her reply wasn't just a clapback. It was a call to all of us to be ready when our own moment comes. We've just broken down one of the most unforgettable moments in recent political discourse. Mark Levin's attempt to discredit Jasmine Crockett's law degree, and her stunning fact-based reply that flipped the entire exchange on its head. It was more than a debate tactic. It was more than a viral clip. It was a moment that revealed something bigger in a world where confidence often masquerades as truth. Preparation still wins. Here's what this story shows us. Plain and simple. Facts matter more than fiction. When rhetoric runs wild, truth remains the anchor. Preparation beats performance. Confidence can impress for a moment, but facts endure for a lifetime. Voices must be defended. When someone tries to silence or diminish you, standing tall in your truth can shift the entire room. Crockett's response wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who's ever had their hard work questioned or their credentials dismissed. This story isn't just political theater. It's a reminder for everyday life. Whether you're in a classroom, a workplace, or even around a dinner table, there will be moments when someone challenges your credibility. The lesson: be ready. Ground yourself in facts. Don't let the noise drown out your voice. And remember, calm composure can be louder than shouting. Now, here's where you come in. Democracy doesn't survive on autopilot. It depends on people. Ordinary people being willing to engage, defend truth, and refuse to let misinformation win. If you connected with this breakdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been dismissed the way Crockett was? How did you handle it? Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that preparation and truth still matter. Every time you engage, you help push back against the culture of noise and remind others that facts still have power. And so we end where we began, with the bigger picture. Crockett's reply wasn't just a clapback. It was a symbol of what's possible when truth stands tall against bluster. And that brings us to the line that sums it all up. In the end, democracy doesn't defend itself. That's our job. The question is, will you be ready when your moment comes?